interesting what you said earlier about there are certain things that they're able to do that we're not, like fact checking and stuff. They're also, because of how they're incentivized and subsidized and the expectations, like non-sexy stories, digging into weather and accounts and stuff. Tell me which YouTube channel is going to predict tomorrow's weather. No one, right? Not sexy enough. Too much of a cost to be able to do. And no one's saying the fucking Met Office, they're captured by the woke. Although there was that thing this year, right, where they made most of Europe look like it had turned to ash because anything over 35 degrees Celsius meant that it was like the blackened end of a cigarette. So maybe there is a little bit
incredible.
I mean, fuckery going on.
Yeah, well, there is a lot of fuckery going on. What's interesting is I find the climate issue absolutely fascinating. It's genuinely fascinating to me because the historical ignorance on that issue that is being deliberately spread is like mind-blowing to me. Do you know the Romans, when they occupied Britain, they grew grapes on Hadrian's Wall? Hadrian's Wall, for people listening, is what used to protect England from what is now England from what is now Scotland, right? One of the northernmost points on the British Isles. Now, if you don't know Scotland,
fucking cold.
It's average weather I used to live in Edinburgh for 7 years. Average weather in Scotland in August is like 18 degrees and rain at best, right? So what we are being told about that issue is absolutely mind-blowingly, incredibly unhelpful and inaccurate.
Wasn't I think it's still around, somewhere in London or somewhere on the south coast, 40 miles inland from the coast, there's ports.
Pevensey Castle, yeah. Pevensey Castle, you go there and they're like, yeah, the sea used to be here. I don't see the sea.
2,000 years ago.
Yeah. So this whole conversation is very, very odd to me. And after my Oxford speech went viral, I had a lot of invitations to go and speak to different people. And I was talking to this guy who works for the Indian government at a high level. And he told me when India became independent in 1947, average life expectancy was 37 years old in India. And today it's, I think, 82. And that's because they burn fossil fuels. Now, are we saying to 1 billion plus Indian people, they're not allowed to do that anymore? Do you know what I mean? Like the way we talk about this issue, it's a cult. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any logical sense. The things that are being suggested that we do don't make any sense. The way we're approaching it doesn't make any sense. It's incredible to me the way this conversation is being had. And I'd love to understand. Eric, who you just had on, he always says this: like, we're lying about the climate for the wrong reasons. Do you know what I mean? Like his point is climate change is happening and it's a serious issue, but we're lying about the way to deal with it and lots of other things around it. That's one of the most weird things to me about what's happening. Like Bjorn Lomborg, during that, oh my God, heat wave, we're all going to die, kept posting stuff about, like actually the number of forest fires is the lowest it's ever been, and the number of hurricanes in America is, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I would love to know what's going on with that shit. I would love to know.
You got any theories?
Well, one thing that's interested me a lot is obviously people are familiar with the concept of groupthink. But there's another thing, which is the Abilene paradox. I don't know if you're familiar with it. It's basically the idea that people will often do things because they think other people want them done. And you combine that with mass panic, indoctrinating kids into being terrified, etc. And I also think human beings love a doomsday narrative. And a portion of the sort of side that I've been arguing on, which is this anti-woke side, is like the barbarians at the gates. Now, I genuinely think that's true. I think we are undermining the founding pillars of our civilization, but there is an appeal to that worldview. And if you look back, neither of us are old enough, but in the 1970s, the planet was cooling and everybody was terrified of global cooling. Terrified.
Terrified of the population bomb.
Absolutely. Now we're terrified of the depopulation. It's what we love. We love to think, and I think there's a kind of like, we live in special times.
Oh, like a mass solipsism.
Yeah. Like, look, the last 2,000 years, shit has happened, and, you had Jesus, World War II and whatever. But now is the real time when shit is happening. and who knows, maybe it is happening. Not on this issue, I don't think. But yeah, the idea that we are living through a climate catastrophe seems highly suspect to me. Highly suspect.
But also somehow very sexy.
Very sexy. Now, that's not to say the climate isn't changing. The climate is changing. But the question I think we also ought to be asking is the climate changing a bad thing?
Well, climate-related deaths have decreased by 50 times over the last 100 years. That's Alex Epstein. Has he been on?
Yes.
Yeah.
We haven't had him on, but yes.
Oh, dude, you guys would fucking love him, right? I'm sure. He's an interesting dude.
Yeah.
Climate-related deaths have decreased by 50 times. More people are killed by cold weather than hot weather.
Yes. Way more. And we know that because this is the thing about the idea of pursuing net zero is it makes energy more expensive. That's the method by which you achieve this to some extent. And tens of pensioners freeze to death every winter in this country. Now, that doesn't seem like a good thing to me. I don't think making energy more expensive for poor elderly people and them freezing to death on their own in their homes in the winter, I don't think if we were setting out to improve the world, that would be one of the ways that we'd do that. But because we're trade-off denialists, because we refuse to understand that actions have consequences, good and bad, we ignore that. And this hysteria, it's cult-like, and I find it very strange. Whatever you think about the climate issue in and of itself, our response to it is strange.
This episode is brought to you by Shortform. Shortform is my absolute favorite way to discover new non-fiction books and gain deeper insights into books that I've already read. You guys know about how important my reading list is to me, and Shortform is an easier, faster, and cheaper way to dive into ideas that I've always been curious about. They're essentially book summaries on steroids. They provide super detailed guides of the book's key ideas, and they've got smart insights and interactive exercises. I really love using Shortform to revisit some of my all-time favorite books, like The 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene. They've got one-page summaries and breakdowns of each chapter that will help you to better absorb and solidify all of the learnings without having to go back through a book that you've already read. The best part is that they always keep their library fresh. Shortform drops new book guides and articles every week, and subscribers get to vote on what books to cover. You can try Shortform completely free for 5 days with no obligation by following the link in the description or by going to shortform.com/modernwisdom, and you'll get an additional 20% off if you sign up for the annual subscription. That's shortform.com/modernwisdom. Thank you very much for tuning in. If you enjoyed that clip, then press here for the full-length 2-hour+ podcast with Konstantin.